The word butterfly is one of the oldest insect names in the English language, and the most popular explanation for where it comes from, the one you've probably heard, is almost certainly wrong. The real story involves witches, stolen butter, and a linguistic mystery that has never been fully solved. To understand why this word exists, you need to picture England around the year 1000 AD. Most people live in small farming villages. Dairy is precious. Butter and milk are not refrigerated. They sit in open containers, in kitchens and sheds, vulnerable to spoiling. And in that world, strange things happen to dairy. It curdles. It disappears. It turns yellow and rancid overnight. People needed explanations for that, and they reached for the supernatural. Fairies stole milk, witches curdled cream, and certain insects, the yellow-winged ones that appeared in spring and summer, were suspected of being involved somehow. This is the world that produced the Old English word buttorfleoge, literally butterfly. A world where the line between a natural pest and a supernatural threat was not clearly drawn, and where naming something was also, in a way, accusing it. The word butterfleoge appears in Old English text and it is a compound of two words, butere, meaning butter, borrowed from Latin butyrum, which itself came from Greek buturon, a combination of bos, meaning cow, and turos, meaning cheese. So the dairy connection goes all the way back to ancient Greece. The second half of the compound, fleoge, is the Old English ancestor of our modern word fly, derived from Proto-Germanic roots meaning a winged creature or something that moves through air. So structurally, the word was always exactly what it looks like, butter plus fly. The mystery is not the structure. The mystery is the reason. Jacob Grimm, yes, the same Grimm of the fairy tales, documented this problem in the 19th century. In his encyclopedic work on Germanic language and mythology, Grimm noted that across multiple Germanic languages, butterflies were associated with witches and with dairy theft. In German, the creature was called Buttervogel, butterbird. In Dutch, variants of the butter name appeared as well. Grimm's interpretation, writing in the 1830s from his research in Germany, was that popular belief held witches would transform into these insects specifically to steal butter and cream. That is a documented folkloric tradition, not a guess. And it gives the name a coherent explanation. People called it a butterfly because they believed or feared that it was after their butter. But here's where it gets complicated. The earliest recorded use of the word in a form we can date with confidence comes from around 1600 in English texts. By then, the supernatural associations were already fading. The word had survived, but the original belief that may have motivated it was already becoming obscure, which means we are in the strange position of having a word whose reason for existing was already being forgotten at the moment we first clearly documented it. A name outliving its own explanation. The common story you hear online and in casual conversation goes like this. Butterfly is just flutterby, said backwards, a charming inversion that children once used and that somehow stuck. It is a lovely story. It is also completely made up. There's no historical record of flutterby predating butterfly. None. The inversion theory appears to be a piece of modern folk etymology, the kind of explanation that feels true because it is clever and spreads because people want it to be true. But buttorfleoge in Old English predates any documented flutterby by centuries. The second common misconception is subtler. Many people assume the butter connection is purely about color, that the common yellow and white European butterfly simply looked like butter, and the name is descriptive in a straightforward visual way. That may be partially true, but it does not account for why the compound uses fly rather than bird or wing, and it does not explain the parallel names in Dutch and German or Grimm's witch tradition, which suggests the name carried a behavioral accusation, not just a visual description. The honest answer, the one actual etymologists give, is that we do not know for certain. The word is old enough that its original motivation is lost. The butter theft theory is the best supported explanation we have, but it remains a theory. The dairy supernatural connection might sound like ancient history, but traces of it surface in unexpected places. In parts of Northern Europe, there are still folk traditions, documented by folklorists in the 20th century, where butterflies near a dairy or a kitchen are considered an unlucky sign. In English itself, the word butterfly carries an instability that mirrors its murky origin. We use it for the nervous feeling in your stomach before something important. We use it for a swimming stroke that mimics erratic, unpredictable movement. A social butterfly flits from person to person without settling. The insect's name, built on suspicion and strangeness, has quietly colored every metaphor we built from it. Even in science, the butterfly sits in an unusual position. Lepidopterology, the formal study of butterflies and moths, uses a Greek-derived name for the field, but the insects in English still carry their Old English dairy theft label. Latin gave us the taxonomy. Old English gave us the suspicion. The Greek root butyron, cow cheese that fed into Latin butyrum and eventually our word butter, is also the direct ancestor of the chemistry term butyric acid. That is the compound responsible for the smell of rancid butter and also, interestingly, of certain cheeses. The same ancient Greek root that named a barnyard staple became a technical term in organic chemistry. The Proto-Germanic fleoge root that gave us the fly in butterfly also branched into a wide family of English words. Fly as a verb, flight, flit, and possibly flutter all trace back through related Germanic paths. So the flutterby inversion theory is ironic because flutter itself may share deep ancestry with the second half of butterfly. In other languages, butterflies got entirely different names, and those names reveal entirely different cultural assumptions. Spanish mariposa connects to a religious phrase. French papillon traces to a Latin word for moth. Irish has felican, which connects to a word for winding or fluttering. Each language looked at the same insect and reached for a completely different set of associations. What makes butterfly unusual is that it is one of the very few common English animal names that encodes a behavioral belief, a suspicion, an accusation, rather than a purely physical description. We did not name it after its wings. We named it after what we thought it wanted. And the fact that the explanation was already becoming obscure by 1600, that the word survived its own origin story, tells you something important about how language works. Words do not need their reasons to survive. They just need to be used. If you want more videos like this one, subscribe. It genuinely helps. Next time, we are looking at a word you use almost every day that started as a legal insult in medieval France, and it made its way into English through one of the most bizarre political arguments of the 13th century.